I'm going to show you how to coach the hitch kick in real time. This is one of my coach athlete member videos, and over the Christmas period, whilst I take a little bit of a break, I'm going to post 2 of the videos so that you can see what they're all about. They go into a lot more detail than the main channel videos. In this video, we're going to take a look at an actual session I did with 2 visiting athletes from the States. The objective is that you're going to be able to see how I structure a session and how I interact with the athletes and what the aims and objectives are in terms of developing improved running form that's going to help with the long jump takeoff, and also the development of a hitch kick technique. Hopefully, by me showing you what I do with the guys, you'll also be able to implement similar structures, similar progressions, and also see how I interact with the athletes. Sometimes it's a case of what you don't say as much as what you do say. Also, you want to elicit feedback from the jumper as well. Sometimes it's important to keep quiet, as I've just said, and not overcoach. Let them work things out for themselves. The main focus of the video in terms of the athlete will be Andrew, who's 17 and he's ran 10.7 for the 100 meters consistently, lots of 10.70s, 10.73 times, that sort of thing, and a 7 meter 30 plus long jump. However, he doesn't hold his takeoff, and his running into the board doesn't help his takeoff. The other athlete you're going to see is of similar speed, John Carlo, who's 21, and he also has problems with his takeoff as well. So let's see the session and the structure and how we got on. After a preliminary warm-up, we started to do what I call positioning and mental rehearsal drills, where the focus is on movements and learning them at a slower pace. So there was improvement with the arm-focused drills. Sometimes I will instruct the sprinter jumper to run with their arms, so they will do a low cycling drill, a dribble, or even running, but the objective will be to drive the movement through the arms, and this singular focus tends to improve how they move their arms, and that can then transfer into the jumping session that follows. It is important to connect all your training units together, to know what you're working on, and to get a flow, a progression of movements, drills and thought processes, so that the jumper can maximize their contribution, the way they affect their movements, and they know what they're trying to do. So on that subject, single leg takeoffs, landing on the free leg, are a great way to start to introduce the takeoff movement. Now, as I've said, we worked on the arm action, so you can see that Andrew here is separating his arms as he's taking off and swinging up into each takeoff. So that's sowing the seed for what we need to do next. Then it was on to some mat drills. As you know, these are a regular inclusion in my training. We had one mat placed on the 3rd step out, and the objective was to drive from that mat through into the penultimate and then into the takeoff. The focus being again on the use of the arms moving through those steps, so that there will be separation when, in this case, Andrew takes off, and you can see that he holds his position particularly well. You have to set the jumper up to succeed, and that's where the prior drills and suggestions and technical points come into play. You also need to consider when coaching that the issue that you're working on and the way to improve it could actually not be what you're looking for straight away, i.e. the takeoff movement off the board, but it could be a consequence of what's happening before the board, i.e. in terms of the positioning into the final steps. So the hips need to move forwards through those steps. It needs to be a quick transition from step 3 to step 2 to step 1. Hips move through the takeoff. The free leg should then swing almost automatically in front of the hips, and you should get a great takeoff. So if the takeoff doesn't go quite as well as what you're looking for, then go back and look at what could have happened, influence that takeoff prior to the board. Sometimes I will take the mat away and get the jumper to do the same movement, takeoff drill without it, and I may put it back again. It depends what you're seeing and how the session's going. The next progression, however, was to work on the foreleg movement after takeoff. It's push away and then the sweep back into the first position of the hitch kick. You'll have heard me talking about that in the actual video. Good. A little bit straight down after the takeoff rather than pushing out. So you've got to go there, and then there, and pull back. Other than that, okay. you go. As I've said, you don't want to overcoach, so I'm showing the video to Andrew and he's giving his own feedback. Now he makes a comment that he finds it easier to do the takeoff movements from less speed. I didn't ignore it, but I didn't comment upon that straight away. As I commented upon, fed back on what went well, I then mentioned about moving back down the run-up at a later stage because there had been definite improvement in his coordination and awareness of what he was required to do. So, step by step. He's here for nearly a month, so as we progress through the sessions, we will move him back so he has to cope with greater amounts of velocity at takeoff. On a couple of efforts, he morphed more into a pseudo type of hang movement, although it was still better than what he was doing in America, where he's basically not getting any takeoff drive whatsoever and pulling straight back. Here, there was direction from the board and a pulling back of the free leg at a later point in the jump. Yes, it's something that we need to work on. Cueing the movement before the actual jump can pay dividends. So here Andrew is working on or thinking through what he's going to do with his free leg as he takes off. And it's not a bad effort. However, look where I've frozen the video at his arm action and he's shrugging his shoulders. Now that is not necessarily a bad thing to do, but what it does do is it slows the rotation of the arms. So he's done that and then his arms are going to come over. Whereas if you go straight from there to there, the movement is going to be quicker. So as a coach, I've got to work out whether that's going to suit him. I have another jumper, Lee, female jumper, who is benefiting from the shoulder shrug before moving the arms into the hitch kick because it delays her takeoff and enables her to go more vertical. So again, as a coach and indeed as an athlete, you've got to work through the nuances of how to take off, the intricacies, the slight differences between the variations that you can employ, and choose the one that works the best for you.
I've noticed when I do the right arm and everything, the right leg also comes up. Because I haven't been able to bring the expand out here.
This is off the board?
No, so after I drive the leg and I do the cycle down, when I'm pulling this foot up, I don't get it to 90 or higher. I even get it here. And then when I shoot, I'll bring it higher.
It's because if you're going into a hang position,
keep going, keep going.
You went like this, and then you went like that, and then this is going to get stuck.
Yeah, so that's going to prevent me from...
You've actually got to learn, if you're in, well, we don't want you to do a hang, you can get both of them, right.
Yeah.
Both of them now. So focus on 1, 2, pulling back hard, and then you get the rotation. Hopefully you'll have heard what I was saying to Andrew and Andrew was saying to me. The issue was that he was pushing his hips and going into that hang shape. So we don't want that with the hitch kick at all. So we need to hold the torso in a fixed position and then move the arms around. He was also talking about his landing position. Now, I was explaining how after takeoff he should push that leg out, as I've explained, but rotate it back quicker. That should spin the legs round and enable them to transfer more quickly into the landing. However, you've still got to hold off of the board. You can't move too quickly at the point of takeoff. Yes, the hip swings in, but then you've got to block, hold, push and then pull the leg back quicker, and that should create the rotation to shoot the legs out for the landing. So it's better here. The position that Andrew's in here with the same side arm and leg in alignment is what we're looking for towards the middle of the hitch kick. That position shows that the jumper is combating rotation. The movements are long, and then they would come around with the other arm as the dropped leg comes through to the front to be joined by the takeoff leg. We continued to do some jumps and there was improvement and awareness of what's required. We need to keep working on the takeoff and the movement off of the board to get Andrew to go out and forwards rather than out, and as he's doing at the moment, slightly up. So more velocity brought into the training sessions in terms of a longer run-up should help that, and he shouldn't have trouble taking off from a longer run-up. Indeed, I've dropped in a few clips of the second or third session that we did, and you can see that he is able to generate forward momentum from the board with greater velocity whilst still holding the takeoff. It's about how you sow the seeds in order for the jumper to achieve that, the progressions that you use. And hopefully you've seen in this video some of the progressions and ways that I've enabled Andrew to get into a position where he can hold his takeoff and start to get into a hitch kick, which for him is something new. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you are interested in finding out more about the Coach Athlete membership videos and seeing more of them, then do head over to the channel's homepage and click on the members button.